Yo, what's up, everybody? It's DFS Dudes. We are back. MLB is back. Happy opening day. 2-game slate tonight, then a full game slate tomorrow. So we're going to get back into the deep dive swing of things. We'll break down tonight's slate, and tomorrow we'll be back with a much deeper dive into things. The deep dive is going to evolve as the year kind of goes on because it's typically a statistical analysis and really a deep dive into things that we're looking at for DFS purposes that most other people aren't looking at. And that's really founded in stats. And at the beginning of a season, when it starts, we don't have a lot of in-season data. So there's some things we're going to look at today for this slate, particularly with the Washington and Yankee game. The pitching matchup's outstanding. You've got Garrett Cole on one side for the Yankees. You got Max Scherzer on the other side. I keep saying this if you've been checking out the content. Scherzer fresh off kind of getting lit up in his last exhibition outing, but it's Max Scherzer. The evening edition, by the way, there's also a little bit of weather to worry about. There's scattered thunderstorms. It's really hot in Washington. The wind's blowing out. If you've tuned into the deep dive over the last year and a half or so, you know one thing I've said about Washington over and over again is that the ballpark plays completely different when the temperature is above 90 degrees. It's like 2 runs per game higher in Washington when it's above 90 degrees. So we're going to have 90, 91, 92 degree weather, very humid, and the ball can get out. So one of the things we're going to look at is kind of contact rate, hard contact rate, and fly ball ratio to see if, for maybe lack of a better term, if either Scherzer or Cole get unlucky. You know, I definitely think Cole and Scherzer can go strike out a bunch of guys tonight. Juan Soto tested positive for coronavirus, so he's out. Just came out a little bit ago. But let's look at kind of the peripheral here with the first game. The implied run total, 3.4 for Washington, 4.2 for the Yankees. I think some of that has to do with the fact that Scherzer didn't look great in his last outing. The Yankees are a monster favorite to go to the World Series. Their lineup's gotten a ton of hype. And if, again, you watched any of our content the last couple of days, I'm way higher on the Dodgers than I am the Yankees, just for a multitude of reasons. One being, I think Gavin Lux is kind of a linchpin in what could happen with the Dodgers as we approach the trade deadline at the end of August. And both of these teams, their 1 and 2 guys are extremely good, right? So, you know, you got Garrett Cole, you've got James Paxton coming back from an injury, looks to be healthy. You've got Clayton Kershaw and Walker Buehler with the Dodgers. But side by side, if you look at those teams, the question mark is after that. Who's after that? Well, when you start breaking down the roster of the Yankees from a depth standpoint, from their everyday roster, you really only run into really the Gleyber Torres situation with Miguel Andujar, Gio Urshela, etc. You know, DJ LeMahieu's in that mix. They've got a lot of infielders. The outfield, you know, they've got Gardner, they've got Hicks, they've got Stanton, they've got Aaron Judge. Their pieces, though, because of the Stanton injuries, because of the Andujar injury in the past, their pieces aren't as appealing from a depth standpoint if you have to make a move at the trade deadline to get yourself another starting pitcher. The Dodgers, on the other hand, with Gavin Lux, they send him down. He's going to play inter-squad games in practice. You've got Jock Peterson. You've got A.J. Pollock, you've got Chris Taylor, you've got Kike Hernandez, and you've got a ton of versatility with guys like Cody Bellinger who can play first base. You've got Max Muncy who can play first base, third base, second base. You've got Seager back in that mix. Kike Hernandez and Chris Taylor can both play second base, third base. Kike Hernandez and Chris Taylor can both play the outfield. So their pieces to me are so much more appealing because if the Dodgers need to make a move because their rotation isn't deeper than just Kershaw and Walker Buehler, they can move pieces. And it may have been a blessing in disguise for them that the Jock Peterson deal didn't go through because now they've got a piece that's in their back pocket. So we'll see how that evolves as the season goes on. But for purposes of tonight, in this first game, look, from a DFS standpoint, people love to load their lineups up with players they can watch, right? And there's going to be a lot of ownership in the first game. When lineups are released, you're going to see a ton of ownership on, you look at Victor Robles here, you look at Michael A. Taylor. There's going to be ownership on those two guys because Juan Soto is not in the lineup. I think Adam Eaton is somewhat owned tonight. Hitting probably in the 2 spot. On the flip side of it, you look at Aaron Hicks, Aaron Judge, Gleyber Torres, Giancarlo Stanton, Brett Gardner, Gary Sanchez, Luke Voigt, Ursula, Tyler Wade, DJ LeMahieu. We're gonna have to see when these lineups confirm where this is at. But people are gonna load up this first game because 1, they're excited DFS is back. 2, they want to see people in their lineups. 3, it's the Yankees. And I think the most popular way people will stack today is try to get exposure to a 4x3x1 off or 2 off with a Garrett Cole, 3 Yankees players. Try to get 3 or 4 Dodger players in there if they can, and then find the value with a Giants team if you have Garrett Cole. And here's what I would do, right? I would use the value if I was going to stack Cole to be different, stack against him with a guy like Michael A. Taylor. And the reason I'm mentioning Michael Taylor is he can steal you a base, get you a single, maybe score a run. If Garrett Cole strikes out 10, gives up 2 runs, and Michael A. Taylor gets on base and steals you a bag, there's 9 points right there from a guy minimum value. And you're going to be so much different than everybody else because the one thing people hate to do more than anything in DFS is stack against their pitcher. They don't do it. But on a 2-game slate, even a 3-game slate, I encourage it because you're going to be different. And that's what it takes to go up a leaderboard. You have to be different than everybody else. What's everybody else going to do today? Well, default. Start at the top. Everybody else is going to stack the Dodgers and Yankees. How do I stack the Dodgers and Yankees? Because they're the most popular. They're going to the World Series. They're the 2 best teams in baseball. They have all the loaded lineups and stacked players and best pitching staff. That's all the nonsense, right? We just need one day to be right. So on this 2-game slate, if you're going to play Garrett Cole, if you're going to play Max Scherzer, don't be afraid to stack 1 guy, maybe 2 guys against them. 2 guys is pushing it for me, but the 1 off against your starting pitcher on a short slate, I'm all for it. Eric Thames is in the Washington lineup. A lot of upside there with him. Adam Eaton, he could probably get you a couple of points. He'll walk or get you a base hit. Trey Turner, same thing. So, I'm not the one guy that, and this could bite me right in the ass by saying this, but Howie Kendrick's the guy that I don't want to stack against Garrett Cole. And the reason I don't want to stack Howie Kendrick against Garrett Cole is because he's the one guy that I feel could wreck my Garrett Cole lineup here. And what I mean by that is he's the guy that could find himself, Garrett Cole gives up a base hit, maybe walks the guy. He's got 2 guys on, 2 outs. Here comes Howie Kendrick and hits a 3-run bomb. I don't want to bet on that. I love that if I don't have Garrett Cole as my pitcher and we're not discussing the scenario of stacking against or one-offing against my starting pitcher. So the implied totals for this game, 4.2 for the Yankees, 3.4 for Washington. Clearly, Vegas is on Garrett Cole. He'll be the most popular pitcher on the slate. The 2 pitchers on the slate that are going to go under-owned is Kershaw, and he should probably, in all fairness, be the highest-owned guy on the slate. And that's because he's facing the worst lineup on the slate with the Giants. So on paper, he should have clearly against the worst lineup and should clearly be the highest-owned pitcher. But the upside is very uncertain with Clayton Kershaw after last season. There's no weather concern in LA at all. It's going to be a nice night. Let's look at who the hell is on this Giants roster, right? We know the Dodgers roster, and I'll get to that in a second. But the Giants are, if you're max entering today, if you're playing multiple entries, there's exposure here that I would definitely get to the Giants. I'd get Austin Slater in my lineups, who just 2 nights ago had 5 RBIs against Sean Manaea. If you've listened to any of our content, Chris is huge on Oakland and their pitching staff. Sean Manaea has been a really good pitcher. He's a really good young arm. Austin Slater loves to hit left-handed pitching. Slater's hitting leadoff, can swipe a bag. Slater's definitely a one-off play I would look at. If I was going to stack the Giants at all and try to get like a 3x3x2 stack going with, some expo to be completely different, with maybe stacking up the first game to see if I can get above the money line and hold, or give me a chance to really go off. Because there is a scenario that I'm going to talk about with Johnny Cueto that I can see Cueto dealing tonight. But Slater's a guy. Wilmer Flores is another guy. Wilmer Flores has extensive history of being a guy that can wreck. He's like an Asdrubal Cabrera who can wreck left-handed pitching. Hunter Pence is another guy. I just like what Hunter Pence did with recreating himself to stay in the major leagues and then going and signing with Texas after he recreated himself. He's got a different batting stance. He's kind of geared his stance around power instead of contact. He's had some success against Clayton Kershaw. So those 3 guys are who I'd really look at for the Giants. Yastrzemski and some of the other guys, if you want to get into them, I'd stay away. But Yastrzemski would be a fringe guy for me. And I wouldn't be, left-on-left matchup. It'd be a situation for me where I'm thinking that maybe he gets into one late in the game against a bullpen, so it's a really deep GPP play. But as a 3-man stack of Slater and Wilmer Flores and Hunter Pence, I'm going to run that out there tonight. And then the 2-man stack of Austin Slater and Hunter Pence, I'll have, probably 25% of my lineups will have Austin Slater and Hunter Pence in them. The Dodgers side of it, where do you start? This is an insane lineup to try to deal with if you're a pitcher. You've got 2 guys who have over 980 OPSs at the top of it with Mookie Betts and Max Muncy. Very selective. Mookie Betts with a 16.8% K percentage. It's just ridiculously low. Turner's is 16.2 last year, ridiculously low in the 3 spot. And you put those 3 guys in front of Cody Bellinger, and the way this thing lines up, you've got 2 high percentage on-base guys in Mookie Betts and Max Muncy, a very disciplined hitter in Justin Turner who's going to get pitched to in front of Cody Bellinger. And if you see Mookie Betts get on, you're going to likely see the ability for the Dodgers to hit and run. You're going to see the ability for the Dodgers and Mookie Betts to swipe second and get a guy in scoring position for Max Muncy to do something and try and pull a ball. Got a guy on second base. You're at the plate. Your job is to get the ball to the right side, and you've got a left-handed hitter to do it. Comfortable pull situation. And then you get to Turner. Turner is really a perfect 5 hitter by definition because of his ability to be gap to gap and hit the long fly ball. Typically, your 5 guys a high RBI guy. But you've got these guys all sandwiched and batting in front of Bellinger. And you're going to see situations where pitchers have gone through, 12 to 16 pitches and the first 2 hitters, and they're, 20 pitches deep by the time they're pitching to Bellinger. And I think that what you're going to see is the pitchers that try to paint corners and be careful are going to get lit up by the Dodgers. The guys that go right after them and have a good mix of pitches and are able to keep them off balance by throwing first pitch slider, for strike 1, be able to locate the fastball, use the changeup. Those are the guys that will have success against this lineup. The Dodgers are not going to go 60-0. Guys are going to have some success against them. Corey Seager AJ Pollock, Jock Peterson, Kike Hernandez, Austin Barnes. All these guys are very, very good hitters. But this lineup is a 1 through 5. And the bottom half of it is as pesky as it gets. They're still going to, it's not a break. Transitioning here, to have success against this Dodger lineup, it's going to be guys that can come in and keep these guys off balance and throw strikes. Johnny Cueto can do that. Johnny Cueto's had success in Dodger Stadium. I don't want to come off like I'm sounding like a Giants homer here, but watch Johnny Cueto pitch. He never throws from the same arm slot. He never delivers the ball from the same windup twice the same way. He constantly mixes it up. He's got no problem throwing a changeup first pitch. He's got no problem throwing a curveball first pitch. He's got no problem throwing, any one of his pitches first pitch. And that's, in my opinion, what it's going to take to keep this Dodger lineup from putting up 7 to 12 runs. A win tonight would be Johnny Cueto at 6,600, striking out 5 or 6, getting you 6 innings, giving up 3 runs and a quality start. That's a win, man. So can you stack somebody again? Absolutely you can. You can stack, you can put Mookie Betts or Turner or Bellinger as a one-off play against Cueto the same way you can by putting somebody in that Nationals lineup against Garrett Cole. And I encourage doing it. I think Cueto is extremely in play today. And right now I've got about 27% Johnny Cueto. You have to play the guys nobody else is going to play. Everybody's going to play Cole. Everybody's going to play Scherzer. I think Kershaw's lower owned, and I think Cueto is hardly at all owned. Sub 10%. And sub 10% on a 2-game slate is more like 2 to 3% owned on a full slate. So that's how these 2 games kind of shake out. Here's what I want to get into. And that's some advanced stats here on the 4 guys throwing tonight, and really the 2 guys that are going tonight. If you look at the weather in Washington, we're going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of between 86 and 91 degrees. The dew point is ridiculous. It's at 73%. If you follow dew point, anytime the dew point gets above 60%, the ball carries. We've got humidity, high 60s. The ball's going to carry, and it's blowing out to right center. Do I think Garrett Cole is going to get lit up? No, but do I think that a routine fly ball to right field could get out? Yes. So I like this game a little bit more than some might think because of the Dodgers are on the slate. I like the national side of this thing a little bit more than the average person because I think that Garrett Cole could get unlucky here. So to me, that's kind of where the door opens for stacking, 1 or 2 players in a lineup against Garrett Cole and rostering Garrett Cole. I think he can get unlucky and give up a solo home run, get unlucky and give up a 2-run blast, but still strike out 10 and still get you a quality start and still get you a win. So what do Scherzer and what does Garrett Cole do as far as hard contact and fly ball rate? We know the K numbers. I mean, we know they're ridiculous. We know the strikeouts. We know all of the, you look at last year, Garrett Cole, the 2.5 ERA goes 20-5. We know all this stuff. But what's the batted ball data? Does the batted ball data say that Garrett Cole could get unlucky tonight? Well, pull contact off Garrett Cole is 37.3%. Center field contact is 34.3%. So 72.6% of the contact to Garrett Cole is pull to straight up. So if you see where I'm going with this, a guy like Adam Eaton is a guy I really like, because if Adam Eaton happens to hit a fly ball that could be a routine can of corn on an ordinary night, the wind's blowing out, it's humid, the dew point's high, could Garrett Cole be unlucky by a routine fly ball from a pull hitter that ends up in 18.7 points on a solo home run for Adam Eaton? Medium contact. Medium contact off Garrett Cole is 46.8% of the time. Again, this is last year's data, but it's all we've got to go on so far. Fly ball percentage, 39.4%. Garrett Cole has the highest fly ball percentage of the 4 pitchers on the slate. So, the more we get into this, he played in Houston last year, which is a pretty big American League ballpark. This ballpark tonight's going to play somewhat small. Is it unlikely that Garrett Cole gets unlucky and gives up a couple of pulled, medium to hard hit contacted balls that should be fly balls that get out tonight? I think the likelihood is somewhat high. 39.4% chance that there's a fly ball. If you break that down even further, there's a 72% chance that it's a pulled fly ball to right center field that maybe gets out. So there's some bats that I want to get exposure to in those Nationals lineups. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. Having 1 or 2 of them against Garrett Cole, because who's to say he doesn't still strike out 10 guys but give up 2 unlucky fly balls that get out, and he gives up 3 runs. Scherzer, on the other side of it, second highest fly ball percentage, 38.1. His medium contact rate is 45%. Is there a chance that he gets unlucky and gives up a couple of fly balls that get out? So while I think that they're the 2 most popular pitchers on the slate, rightfully so, all of the accolades, all of the hoopla, all blah blah blah, I think it's extremely sneaky here to get Clayton Kershaw and Johnny Cueto rostered in your pitching spots. And if you're max centering, I'm probably going to have between Kershaw and Cueto 50% of my lineups. To be extremely different, but also because of the fact that I'm not worried about a lazy fly ball getting Clayton Kershaw or Johnny Cueto unlucky. Dodger Stadium's not going to play like Nationals Park is going to play tonight. So let's look at Kershaw. Let's look at Cueto. Of the 4 pitchers on this slate, batted balls in play, Johnny Cueto has the lowest batting average against it at 190. Ground ball percentage. Johnny Cueto has the highest ground ball percentage of anybody on the slate, 53.5%. He keeps the ball out of the air. You talk about contact. From a medium to hard contact standpoint, Cueto's lower than both Scherzer and Cole. So I'm going strong on Johnny Cueto today. It's completely contrarian. It's probably one of my famous I'm off my rocker calls here. But you guys can say when the off the rocker call started, it was take the Royals against Carlos Carrasco, and I think they put up 9 runs in the first inning. The Dodgers could put up 9 runs on Johnny Cueto in the first inning. They could. Cueto could just not have it. But what I'm looking at and applying to the slate and where I think ownership is going to be, how you have to ask yourself the question when you're preparing for a slate. Question 1, what's everybody going to do? Okay, the answer to that is they're going to load up the Dodgers and they're going to load up the Yankees and they're going to have exposure to Scherzer, they're going to have exposure to Cole. What does everybody think is going to happen? Everybody thinks the Nationals will do okay, maybe score a couple runs, and that the Dodgers and Yankees will put up the majority of their runs on the slate tonight. What do I think is going to happen? I think there's a chance that Scherzer and Cole could get unlucky, and there's a chance Johnny Cueto could deliver a gem, giving up three runs or less, go 6, strike out 5. How do we apply that to the slate, right? Well, you can stack the first game with just Johnny Cueto. You can go 3-3-2 in the first game with Johnny Cueto. Get yourself a couple of Dodgers as one-offs against Cueto and be completely different. Or you can just go traditional. So that's really where I'm at on this slate. We'll get more involved tomorrow with a bigger slate. But keep in mind, you talk about contact and where contact is at and what type of contact it is with what's going on in the ballpark tonight in Washington. And my gut tells me that there's a chance that they get really unlucky. We're talking about pull contact and center field contact. You're talking about 72.6% for Scherzer. You're talking about 72.6% for Garrett Cole. The wind's blowing out to right center. It's humid. The dew point's high. Both lineups have guys that can hit. The Yankees obviously a much more powerful lineup. But get some left-handed bats on these Nationals teams, on this Yankees team. Get them in your lineups. And don't be afraid to roster Clayton Kershaw and Johnny Cueto. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with another edition of Deep Dive. Until then, be cool. Keep your cash in. Peace out.